In that distant era, long before the earth was disturbed by the clamor of humanity, there lived a creature that interpreted the weight of existence in the most extreme way. It was not a pterosaur drifting lightly through the sky, nor a predator darting nimbly through the jungle, but a titan that rooted its feet deep into the soil. Science has left it with a somewhat clumsy name, Barapasaurus. Tonight, let us sit by the flickering hearth and, with this story you need not strive to remember, wander into its true life. Its existence was, in itself, an ancient paradox of gravity and relaxation. Possessing the thickest, heaviest feet in the entire dinosaur kingdom, it was nonetheless gentle by nature, spending its life avoiding any unnecessary conflict or vibration. The world always assumes that immensity means oppression and danger, little knowing that within that 30-ton body was wrapped the deepest tenderness for this world. Every step it took was like a deep breath from the earth, steady, slow, carrying a sense of stability that invited unconditional trust. As night fell and starlight scattered like gold dust over the swamps and forests of the early Jurassic, this giant beast began its most soothing ritual of the day. Without needing to fight gravity or escape it, it simply yielded to nature's design, preparing to rest this heavy life in the softest of sanctuaries. The story begins with the first glimmer of dawn, the starting point where the Barapasaurus sought balance amidst the day's pressures. In that age known as the early Jurassic, upon the ancient lands of the Indian subcontinent, the vegetation was dense enough to stifle. Emerging from a long semi-slumber, the Barapasaurus raised its small head, its long cervical vertebrae tracing an agonizingly slow arc through the air. What it felt first was not hunger, nor the scent of surrounding predators, but the gravitational pull of the earth beneath its feet. Those four limbs, as thick as the stone pillars of an ancient temple, supported its incomparable weight, each joint bearing the heaviness of life. It had no razor-sharp teeth like a Tyrannosaurus, nor a majestic frill like a Triceratops. All it had was the most unreserved contact between its soles and the earth. It began to step forward, a slow motion that might even seem comical to an onlooker. First, it slowly lifted its front left limb, the muscles tightening and relaxing rhythmically beneath the coarse skin, followed by a long suspension in the air, before finally settling onto the fallen leaves and soil. There was no earth-shattering boom, only the crackle of leaves crushing under immense pressure, a rustling whisper like a perfectly rhythmic white noise. This gait was a wisdom forged over millions of years of evolution. By walking slowly enough, the body's center of mass could find its safest alignment within the heavy bulk. The midday sun pierced through the impenetrable coniferous forest, bringing scorching temperatures that made every step of the Barapasaurus even more deliberate. It was one of the world's most absolute herbivores. Those towering cycads and giant ferns were its sole reliance. To sustain the operations of its massive frame, it needed to feed constantly, yet this process of consumption held not a shred of haste. With teeth that were far from sharp, it gently stripped tree bark and tore away thick leaves, its massive throat making a dull, gurgling sound as it swallowed. The surrounding jungle was not always peaceful. Occasionally, swift, small predators would scurry past its massive feet, stirring a breeze of panic. Yet the Barapasaurus merely stood still, like a brown hill overgrown with moss, coolly observing all the anxiety of the world around it. Those creatures that bustled, bit, and screamed for survival were, in the vast dimension of its long life, nothing more than fleeting ripples. Its small brain seemed incapable of holding too much fear or calculation, only a pure perception of fullness and tranquility in the present moment. The blazing sun baked the thick skin of its back as it began to journey toward a water source, for only within a warm marsh could its body weight find a temporary physical salvation. It was so tired, a fatigue born not from running, but from confronting the Earth's gravity, day after day, year after year. In the quietest defiance. As the setting sun painted the ancient horizon in a rich orange-red, the Barapasaurus finally arrived at the serene river of its dreams. Under the fading glow, the river rippled with a gentle light, resembling a vast, primordial mirror that had not yet solidified. Slowly, it immersed its thick legs into the warm water, and in that instant, the buoyancy of the current began to lift its heavy abdomen and limbs. You could hear the water lapping gently against its immense body, a soft reward from nature as gravity was partially surrendered. It closed its eyes, letting the current wash away the dried mud and parasitic insects from its soles, as every cell in its body began to broadcast signals of release. In that dog-eat-dog era, water sources often meant danger and ambush, but at this moment, no living soul dared disturb a Barapasaurus enjoying its peace. Its sheer mass became its most impenetrable shield, granting it the right to maintain absolute elegance and composure even as darkness approached. It stood motionless in the water for a very long time, until the last streak of twilight was swallowed by the ink-blue night sky, and the first star quietly lit up overhead. It knew that the day's journey was over, and the time belonged to it. The moment to completely return all its weight to the earth had finally arrived. The Barapasaurus slowly stepped ashore, water droplets cascading from its rough skin, stamping small, damp prints upon the dry grass. The night wind began to cool, dispelling the heat of the day, leaving the air rich with the fragrance of earth, pine resin, and damp ferns. It began to search for its sanctuary for the night, a space that had to be open enough and soft enough to embrace the entirety of its weight. Its gaze fell upon a carpet of ferns, woven from countless fallen ancient trees and thick moss, shimmering with a faint green luster under the moonlight. It did not lie down immediately. Instead, with agonizingly slow steps, it circled the spot a few times, using its massive feet to gently test the ground's softness. With each step, the earth gave way into a deep depression, before bouncing back slowly against the plant's elasticity, producing a comforting, muffled thud. This immensely patient search and trial was its indispensable pre-sleep ritual, its unique way of soothing its nerves. The surrounding forest fell completely silent, save for the occasional cry of an unknown insect in the distance. There was only its own breath, steady and long, like a bellows. Now, the preparations were complete. It halted, standing firmly in the center of this perfect mattress, as all its muscles began their final adjustments. This was the most breathtaking yet tender moment of the entire Jurassic night. The Barapasaurus was preparing to let go of all its gravity. First, it slowly bent the joints of its forelimbs. Those legs that seemed to prop up the heavens began lowering their height inch by inch, sending its center of gravity into a steep tilt. You could hear the dull friction of bones and joints within its body, not a groan of pain, but the unbuckling of bones after a long day of labor. As the forelimbs knelt, its massive chest was the first to touch that thick, cool, and soft layer of ferns. Next came the hind limbs. Those two pillars, the heaviest in the entire dinosaur kingdom, completely lost their tension at this moment, sliding submissively to either side of its body. With a low rumble, that 30-ton colossal frame, in an attitude almost like prayer, flattened itself completely into the embrace of the earth. It was not a fall, but an internal, unreserved surrender, as if it had always been a part of this earth and was now simply returning home. The earth trembled slightly, followed by an endless silence, as all the vegetation wrapped tightly around its underbelly and limbs under the great pressure. The sensation of being fully enveloped by soil and plants insulated it from all the cold and unease of the outside world, bringing an unparalleled sense of safety. Its long neck finally went limp, slumping onto the grass like an exhausted serpent, quietly enjoying the cradling support of Mother Earth. Now, the Barapasaurus had fully dissolved into the night. It was no longer a traveler defying gravity, but had become a hill upon the landscape. The moonlight poured unreservedly across its immense gray back, which rose and fell rhythmically with its breathing, like a silver blanket. Tonight, we witnessed how it used the heaviest of feet to walk out the lightest rhythm of life, and we saw how 30 tons of weight could dissolve into nothingness in an instant. Its story held no grand wars, no heart-stopping escapes, only an acquiescence to gravity and an honest acceptance of fatigue. If you are lying in a warm bed right now, you might try to do as it did, surrender all your body's weight to the mattress beneath you. Imagine your limbs becoming as heavy and solid as the feet of the Barapasaurus, and then, in a single moment, let that heaviness go completely. Allow the mattress to cradle you deeply, let the silence of the night submerge you like a rising tide, and feel that ultimate weightlessness and emptiness after gravity vanishes. The ancient wind has blown across millions of years, carrying away all the noise, leaving only this dreamscape filled with peace. The Barapasaurus closed its massive eyelids, its breathing growing slower and deeper. Sleep now, in this night guarded by an ancient titan, peacefully, deeply, sleep.